Bitcoin can save you or can wreck you. Let me paint a picture for you. In 2018, Bitcoin fell by 83%. Let me say that again. 83. Wiped out over $700 billion in market value. And here's what happened. People who bought Bitcoin at its peak, let's say around $20,000, watched their portfolios collapse. For some, that loss wasn't just a number on a screen. It was years of savings. It was their financial safety net. And when Bitcoin dropped, most beginners, they panicked, they sold at a loss, and they never recovered. Now, here's the part that's harder to believe. By 2021, Bitcoin was back. It hit an all-time high of $69,000. But most people didn't make it to the other side. They were already gone. This is what I need you to understand. Bitcoin's volatility is both the greatest strengths and the greatest danger. If you aren't financially prepared for Bitcoin, Bitcoin will wreck you before it saves you. We are living through a once-in-a-century revolution, a financial shift unlike anything we've ever seen before. For decades, our money has been controlled by governments, by central banks, and by intermediaries. And let's be honest, the system is broken. Governments print more money every day. Banks control how you save, how you spend money, how you send money, and even how you can access your financial tools. And the worst part, the entire system is built on trust. Trust that governments won't devalue your savings. Trust that banks will keep your money safe. Trust that the system won't fail you. But here's the truth. That trust has been broken. Again and again and again. This is where Bitcoin comes in. As the Bitcoin standard says, Bitcoin is the first system built on verification, not trust. It's scarce, it's decentralized, and it's permissionless. To put it simply, Bitcoin isn't just another investment. It's a lifeboat in a sinking ship. Now, back in 2017, I bought my first Bitcoin. I'll admit it, I felt the same excitement most people feel. I watched the price skyrocket to 20,000. I felt unstoppable, but then the crash came. Bitcoin dropped more than 80% and I watched my friends panic. I watched them sell at massive losses. Some of them swore off investing forever, but me, I held on. Not because I was lucky, but because I knew what I was holding. I understood that Bitcoin wasn't a shortcut to wealth. It was a tool to protect it. Here's the problem. Most people don't see Bitcoin that way. They think Bitcoin is a lottery ticket, a chance to get rich quick. And that's where they go wrong. If you don't have the solid foundation, if you don't yet have wealth to protect, Bitcoin's volatility can destroy everything you've worked for. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for Bitcoin? Or are you gambling your future on something you don't fully understand? Here's what I promise. Over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you why investing in Bitcoin without a strong foundation is a dangerous mistake. The timeless lessons from the Bitcoin standard that every investor needs to know, and the exact step-by-step plan to build wealth safely, so you can invest in Bitcoin confidently and responsibly and never lose sleep again. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to position yourself for success. You'll know how to avoid the mistakes most beginners make, and you'll understand how to use Bitcoin the right way, as a tool for financial freedom. Let's get started. Before I go further, I need to tell you why I'm the right person to talk to you about Bitcoin. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of noise out there. Everyone's got an opinion on Bitcoin, right? You've got influencers shouting about the next moonshot. You've got skeptics calling Bitcoin a scam or a bubble. And somewhere in the middle, somewhere between the hype and the fear is the truth. Here's the thing. If you don't know who to trust, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to make bad decisions, and it's easy to lose money. So let me start with this. I'm not here to hype you up. I'm not here to sell you on the next big thing. And I'm definitely not here to tell you Bitcoin is perfect. It's not. What I am here to do is tell you the truth about Bitcoin, the truth about how it works, and the truth about whether you're ready to invest in it. But first, you need to know my story. You need to know why I believe in Bitcoin and why you can trust me when I say that it can change your life, but only if you're ready for it. Let's go back to 2017 when I bought my first Bitcoin. Back then, people were calling it a fad, a bubble, a scam. The media laughed at it, the big banks ignored it, and the average investor, they thought Bitcoin is just a toy for the nerds. Something people would forget about in a few years. But I didn't think so. You see, I was curious. I wanted to understand what made Bitcoin different, what made it special. So I started learning. I bought Bitcoin when it was still trading for a fraction of its current price, and I watched it soar. It hit $20,000 by the end of the year, and I'll be honest with you, it felt incredible. It felt like I'd found the golden ticket, and then the crash came. Bitcoin dropped more than 80%. People panicked, they sold, they swore off investing forever. I watched my friends lose thousands of dollars, not because they were wrong about Bitcoin, but because they didn't know what they were holding. They didn't have the knowledge, the patience, or the plan to ride out the storm. But me, I held. Not because I'm a genius, not because I got lucky, but because I understood the truth. I understood that Bitcoin wasn't just another asset. It wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It wasn't a gamble. It was something bigger. It was store of value, a tool to protect wealth from inflation, corruption, and bad monetary policy. I knew that Bitcoin was here to stay, so I held on, and over time, I was proven right. But I didn't stop there. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to understand how Bitcoin works, from the technology to the economics to the philosophy behind it. So I went to the best minds in the world. In 2022, I completed the Oxford Blockchain Strategy program at the University of Oxford. I spent months studying Bitcoin and blockchain. I learned why Bitcoin is the hardest money ever invented, how its decentralized network eliminates the need for trust, and why it's in limited supply, just 21 million coins, makes it immune to inflation. Then I took it further. I earned credentials from the MIT Media Lab, one of the leading research hubs for blockchain innovation. There I studied the mechanics of Bitcoin, how the proof of work system secures the network, why decentralization makes Bitcoin virtually unhackable, and why Bitcoin is fundamentally different from other cryptocurrencies. So when I say I believe in Bitcoin, I don't say it because of the hype. I say it because of understanding, because I've put in the work, because I've studied the technology, because I've seen firsthand how Bitcoin can transform wealth when it's used the right way. But let me tell you something else about me. I'm not just a Bitcoin enthusiast. I'm an investor. I spent the last decade helping clients build wealth. We're talking 20% plus annual returns year after year. How? By following proven principles: risk management, understanding your downside before you take the leap, consistency, invest regularly no matter what the market is doing, diversification, spread your investments so no single loss can wipe you out. These are the same principles that have helped me build wealth for myself. The same principles that help my clients sleep well at night, knowing their money is working for them. Here's why this matters. Bitcoin is powerful, but it's also risky. If you don't approach it with a plan, if you don't understand what you're holding, if you don't know how to manage the volatility, you're not investing, you're gambling. And that's how people lose money. But when you approach Bitcoin the right way, when you understand it, when you have a financial foundation in place, and when you're ready to ride out the ups and downs, that's when Bitcoin can change everything. That's why I'm here today. Not to sell you on hype, not to tell you what's popular, but to tell you what works. To show you how to safely build wealth, and so that when you invest in Bitcoin, you'll do it from a position of strength, confidence, and control. No fear, not FOMO, not desperation. So let's keep going. Let's talk about what Bitcoin really is and why it's not a shortcut to wealth. Let me tell you about a client of mine. She was 27 years old. She had a stable job. She was doing everything right. She lived below her means, and she worked hard, saved diligently, and built up a safety net of about $30,000. For her, that money meant freedom. It was the down payment for her first home. It was the emergency fund that she had gave her peace of mind. It was her ticket to a better future. And then she started hearing about Bitcoin. She couldn't escape it. Everywhere she looked, there were headlines. Bitcoin hits $20,000. Bitcoin makes overnight millionaires. Her friends couldn't stop talking about it. You have to buy Bitcoin. This is your chance to get rich. If you don't do it, you'll regret it forever. This client started feeling the itch we've all felt before. The fear of missing out, FOMO. She thought, what if they were right? What if I'm the only one that misses out? So she did what so many people do when they see an opportunity they don't fully understand. She took the risk. She took $20,000, two-thirds of her savings, and bought Bitcoin. At first, it felt like she made the smartest decision of her life. In just a few weeks, $20,000 turned into $35,000. She couldn't believe it. Her friends were celebrating. She felt like a genius. She started dreaming about the future. What if Bitcoin went to $100,000, $200,000, $1 million? At that rate, she couldn't quit her job. She could travel the world. She could live life on her own terms. For the first time, it felt like everything was falling into place. But then the market turned, and everything fell apart. Over the next few months, Bitcoin dropped 80%. 35,000 turned into $4,000. Let me say that again, $4,000. She had lost $16,000 of her savings practically overnight. Sarah panicked. She didn't know what to do. Her friends stopped talking about Bitcoin. The same people that told her to buy were now saying, Bitcoin is a scam. And she felt alone, confused, ashamed. So she did what most beginners do when they see their investments collapse. She sold. She sold everything and locked in her losses. And then she swore off investing forever. But here's the part that breaks my heart. She didn't just lose money. She lost confidence. She lost years of progress. She spent the next 3 years rebuilding her savings. 3 years that could have been spent growing her wealth safely and steadily. 3 years she can never get back. Now let me ask you something. Was this client wrong to believe in Bitcoin? No. Was she wrong to invest in it? No. Her mistake wasn't believing in Bitcoin. Her mistake was investing before she was ready. Here's the truth. Bitcoin's volatility isn't a problem if you're prepared for it. If you got a strong foundation, you can handle the ups and downs. But if you're not ready, if you don't have the wealth to protect, those up and downs can wreck you. And this client's story isn't unique. I've seen it happen time and time again. And let me tell you about this other client. He was a small business owner. He spent years building his company. And when he had $50,000 set aside, money he needed to pay his suppliers and cover expenses, but when he saw Bitcoin in his nose, he thought, why not? What's the worst that can happen? So he took $30,000, more than half of his business capital, and put it into Bitcoin. When the market crashed, this client didn't just lose money, he almost lost his business. He couldn't pay his suppliers, he couldn't cover payroll. He spent months digging himself out of the hole. And because he took a risk he couldn't afford to take. Then there's this third client. This is a single mom with 2 kids. This client had an emergency fund of about $10,000 and it wasn't much, but it gave her peace of mind. One day she saw a YouTuber promising that Bitcoin would go to the moon. He said, if you buy now, you'll get next year money. So Rebecca, this third client, took her emergency fund, the money she'd set aside for her kids, and put it into Bitcoin. When the market dropped, her $10,000 turned into $2,000. And when her car broke down a few months later, she had no safety net. She had to borrow money just to get by. These stories are everywhere, and they all teach the same lesson. Bitcoin is not a shortcut to wealth. It's a tool to protect it. Let me say that again. Bitcoin is not a shortcut to wealth. It's a tool to protect it. If you don't have a foundation, if you're not ready to handle the volatility, Bitcoin can set you back by years. And for some people, those years are impossible to get back. So here's what I want you to take away from this. If you don't yet have wealth, if you don't have a financial safety net, your priority is to build that foundation first. Focus on creating wealth before you worry about protecting it. Because when you're ready, when you've built your financial fortress, Bitcoin will be there. And when that day comes, you'll invest with confidence. You'll invest from a place of strength, and you'll never have to panic when the market takes a dip. So let's talk about what Bitcoin really is and why it's not a magic solution most people think it is. To really understand Bitcoin, you need to know what it is and what it isn't. Because here's the thing, most people get this wrong. When you see headlines about Bitcoin, what do you say? What do they say? Bitcoin is the new gold. Bitcoin will replace money. Bitcoin is a bubble. It's either extreme hype or extreme fear. And none of it tells you the full story. This is why I want to introduce you to the book that changed the way I think about Bitcoin forever. It's called The Bitcoin Standard. It's written by an economist who breaks down Bitcoin like no one else. And let me tell you, if you really want to understand Bitcoin, this book is your roadmap. It explains why Bitcoin matters, why it's different, and why it's not a shortcut to wealth, but a revolution of how we think about money. Let's break this down. 1. Bitcoin is hard money, the hardest money ever invented. The first thing you need to understand is this. Bitcoin is what we call hard money. Now, what does that mean? In simple terms, hard money is money that can't be created out of thin air. Think about gold. For centuries, gold was the hardest form of money we had. Why? Because gold is scarce. You can't print more of it. You have to dig it out of the ground, and that takes time, effort, and resources. This scarcity is what gave gold its value, and why gold has been trusted to store value for thousands of years. But here's the problem with gold. Over time, it became too hard to use. You can't exactly carry bags of gold to the store, so we replaced gold with paper money. And that's where things started to break down. Paper money, fiat currency, is not hard money. It's easy to create. Governments can print more whenever they want. And what happens when they print too much? Inflation. Your money loses value. Your savings get weaker and the cost of living goes up. Now let me ask you, how many times have you seen this happen? Think about it. Countries like Venezuela, Zimbabwe, or Argentina. In Venezuela, inflation hit 1 million%. 1 million%. People's life savings became worthless overnight. Why? Because governments couldn't stop printing money. This is where Bitcoin comes in. Bitcoin is the hardest money ever invented. There will only be 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. It's programmed into the system. No one can change it. No government, no bank, not even the creator of Bitcoin himself. This makes Bitcoin unique. It's digital gold. It's scarce. It's decentralized. And it's immune to inflation. Let me say this another way. Bitcoin is money you can't mess with. It's money that holds its value over time. And in a world where governments keep printing more dollars, euros, and yen, Bitcoin is a lifeboat. It's a way to protect your wealth from the system itself. But here's the thing. Bitcoin scarcity doesn't make it a magic solution. It's not perfect. It's not going to make you rich overnight. And that brings me to my next point. 2. Bitcoin is built on verification, not trust. Here's what most people don't realize. Bitcoin solves one of the oldest problems in human history: trust. Let's think about it, how our current financial system works. When you send money to someone, what happens? You rely on a bank to process the transaction. When you save money, you trust the government not to devalue it. When you swipe your credit card, you trust that the system will work. The whole system is built on trust. But what happens when that trust breaks? Banks fail. Governments print too much money, people lose faith. And when people lose trust, the whole system collapses. Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin doesn't rely on trust. It relies on verification. Every transaction is verified by a decentralized network of computers, not by a bank, not by a middleman, and because it's verified mathematically, no one can cheat the system. No one can fake a transaction. No one can steal your wealth. Here's a simple way to think about it. In our current system, you trust the bank to tell you your balance is correct. With Bitcoin, you don't have to trust anyone. The network verifies it for you. It's transparent, it's secure, and it's mathematically guaranteed. This is what makes Bitcoin revolutionary. For the first time ever, we have money that doesn't require trust. It just works. But again, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is perfect. And it doesn't mean it's for everyone. 3. Bitcoin prioritizes safety over efficiency. Here's what most beginners get confused. They hear Bitcoin is slow. Bitcoin can't handle millions of transactions per second. And they're right. Bitcoin isn't fast. It isn't designed to be. Bitcoin sacrifices speed for security. Let me explain. When you make a Bitcoin transaction, it takes about 10 minutes to confirm. Why? Because every transaction is added to a blockchain, a chain of verified records that cannot be changed. This process takes time, but it makes Bitcoin incredibly secure. It's slow because it's safe. And in a world where hacks, fraud, and scams happen every day, safety matters. To put it simply, Bitcoin isn't Visa, it's not PayPal, and it's not designed to handle your daily coffee purchases. It's designed to be a store of value. Like gold, you don't use gold to buy a cup of coffee. You use it to protect your wealth over time. And that's exactly what Bitcoin does. The bottom line is Bitcoin is not a shortcut to wealth. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not magic. It's a tool to protect your wealth, a tool to opt out of the broken financial system, and a tool that works when you use it in the right way. So before you invest in Bitcoin, you need to understand it. You need to respect it, and you need to make sure you're ready. Let's talk about why most people aren't ready and what you need to do to prepare. Why is $1 million the magic number? Here's the question I get all the time. Ahmad, why do you keep saying 1 million? Why can't I buy Bitcoin now? Why wait until I'm already wealthy? I get it. It feels counterintuitive, right? The headlines must tell you Bitcoin is the opportunity of a lifetime. Your friends say, if you don't buy now, you'll miss out. The influencers are screaming, the price is going to the moon. So you're sitting there thinking, if I wait, I'll be too late. But here's what they don't tell you. If you don't have a solid financial foundation, if your net worth isn't at least $1 million, Bitcoin's volatility can destroy everything you've worked for. Not dent it, not bruise it, wreck it. And when I say wreck it, here's what I mean. Let's say you have $50,000 saved. You put that half of it into Bitcoin, let's say $25,000. The market drops 50%. Now you have $25,000 worth $12,500. Half your savings gone. Just like that. That's not just a number on the screen. That's time. That's years of hard work. And when you're still building wealth, every dollar matters. But if you have $1 million, it's a completely different story. If you put 5%, $50,000 into Bitcoin, and it drops by 50%, you're down $25,000. It's not fun. It's not catastrophic, but it's not catastrophic. Your foundation is still intact. Your other investments are still working, and you can ride out the volatility without panic. Here's what I need you to understand. Wealth isn't just about how much money you make. It's about how much risk you can afford to take. And until you've built a financial fortress, you can't afford to take big risks. Let's break this down step by step. 1. Diversification, the secret of the wealthy. The first reason $1 million is the magic number is diversification. Wealthy investors never put all their eggs in one basket. They don't gamble with their future on a single investment. They spread it across multiple assets: stocks, real estate, bonds, private investments, and yes, Bitcoin. Here's the key. When you're wealthy, you can treat Bitcoin as part of your portfolio strategy. It's a calculated bet, not an all or nothing gamble. It's 5% here, 10% there. If it pays off, fantastic. If it doesn't, you're still fine. But when you don't have wealth, Bitcoin doesn't look like a calculated bet. It looks like a lottery ticket. You start thinking, this is my one shot. You put in way more than you can afford to lose. And that's where danger begins. Because here's the thing about Bitcoin. It doesn't care how much you believe in it. It doesn't care how much you need it to go up. Bitcoin will do what it always does. It will rise, it will fall, and if you're not prepared for the falls, you won't make it to the rises. Second, risk tolerance changes with net worth. Here's a second reason $1 million matters. Your ability to take on risk depends on your net worth. Let's use an analogy. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. The higher you climb, the steeper it gets. And if you fall, the consequences are greater. But here's the difference. If you have a safety gear, a strong foundation, you can take that climb with confidence. If you slip, you've got a harness to catch you. If you're climbing with no gear, every step feels like life or death. One wrong move and it's over. Building wealth works the same way. When your net worth is small, every dollar is critical. You don't have safety gear. A big loss doesn't just hurt, it can set you back by years. But when you've built a strong foundation, you can take risks with confidence. You can handle the falls. You can ride out the volatility, and that's the key. Wealth gives you freedom. The freedom to take risks. The freedom to think long term. The freedom to hold through the crashes. So you can benefit from the recoveries. Number 3, Bitcoin is volatile and volatility requires preparation. Here's the reason $1 million matters. Bitcoin is volatile. Let's call it what it is. In 2018, Bitcoin dropped 83%. In 2021, it surged to 69,000, only to drop 70% again in 2022. Now here's the thing. If you understand Bitcoin, you know that this is normal. It's part of the game. It's how Bitcoin works. But knowing that and being able to handle it are two very different things. If you don't have wealth, if you don't have other investments to back you up, that kind of volatility isn't just stressful. It's crippling. It leads to panic. It leads to bad decisions. It leads to selling at the worst possible time. And once you sell at a loss, it's game over. But if you're wealthy, if you're investing from a position of strength, you can ride out the storm. You can hold when others are panicking, and that's when Bitcoin rewards you. The bottom line, build before you bet. Here's the truth. If you don't yet have $1 million, your focus shouldn't be on Bitcoin. It should be on building wealth first. Focus on increasing your income, focus on saving aggressively, focus on investing in proven assets, stocks, real estate, cash flow businesses. Build your fortress, because once you hit the 1 million, Bitcoin becomes a tool, a way to protect your wealth, a way to hedge against inflation, a way to participate in the future of money. But until then, it's just too risky. So here's what I want you to take away. Wealth gives you options. Wealth gives you freedom. And wealth gives you the ability to invest in Bitcoin the right way. Don't gamble with your future, build it. Then you'll be ready. Let's talk about what that journey looks like and how you can build your financial fortress step by step. Let's address some objections. But Bitcoin is the future. I know what you might be thinking. Ahmad, I get it, but what about the people who got rich on Bitcoin? What if I wait too long and miss the boat? Isn't Bitcoin the future? Shouldn't I get in now? These are great questions, and trust me, I've heard them all. So let's break it down. Because I'm not here to dismiss your excitement. Bitcoin is the future. It's the most revolutionary financial innovation of our time. But there's a difference between believing in Bitcoin and betting your future on it when you're not ready. Objection number 1. But people are getting rich on Bitcoin. Let's start here. We've all seen the stories. The guy who bought Bitcoin at $10 and now has millions. The influencer bragging about their 100x returns on some random coin. It's easy to think, if they can do it, why can't I? But here's what those stories don't tell you. For every person who got rich on Bitcoin, there are thousands who lost everything. They don't post screenshots of their losses. They don't share stories about panic selling at the bottom. They just disappear. And here's the reality. The people who made millions on Bitcoin, most of them got in early. They bought when no one believed in Bitcoin. Back then, it was a risky, unproven, and laughed at. And let's be honest, many of them got lucky. They happened to be in the right place at the right time. Luck isn't a strategy. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't make money with Bitcoin. I'm saying you shouldn't rely on it as your only plan, because hope isn't a strategy either. Here's how wealthy investors think about it. They treat Bitcoin like a calculated bet. They invest 5%, maybe 10% of their portfolio. If it goes up 10x, great. If it drops 50%, it stings, but it doesn't ruin them. The difference, they don't need Bitcoin to save them because they already have a plan. And that's what you need too, a plan, not just hope. The objection number 2, what if I miss the boat? Now this one hits hard. The fear of missing out, FOMO, is real. And trust me, I get it. You see Bitcoin going up, you see other people making money, and you start to feel like you've been left out behind. But here's the truth. You're not too late. Let me say that again. You're not too late. When people say Bitcoin price is already too high, I remind them of this. Bitcoin is still early in its adoption. Think about the internet in the 1990s. Back then, people thought the internet was a fad. They thought it was too late to start a website, too late to build a business, too late to invest in Amazon, Google, or Apple. But what happened? The internet didn't disappear, it grew. It changed the world. And people who understood its long-term potential, they built fortunes. Bitcoin is the same. It's still in its early stages. We're at the beginning of a global shift from trust-based money to verification-based money. So no, you're not too late. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. But here's the key. You need to be ready when you invest. Because if you're not ready, if you don't have the discipline, the foundation, and the plan, you won't survive the crashes. And you'll end up missing out anyway. Objection number 3. But Bitcoin is the future. This is my favorite one. Because you're right, Bitcoin is the future. It's the hardest money ever invented. It's immune to inflation. It's decentralized and transparent. And it's solving problems the current system can't fix. But here's where people go wrong. They think Bitcoin's future success means they should go all in today. They think that they need to rush. They think Bitcoin will disappear if they wait. But here's the thing. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. It's not a startup. It's not a company that could fail tomorrow. It's a decentralized network. It's backed by math code and incentives, not by CEOs, governments, or marketing teams. And every year, Bitcoin gets stronger. The network grows, more people adopt it, more institutions get involved, more countries start to take it seriously. The future of Bitcoin is long-term, so you don't need to rush. You need to prepare. Imagine you're building a house. Bitcoin is like the roof. It protects your wealth. But before you build the roof, What do you need? A foundation. If you try to build the roof first, what happens? The whole house collapses and you're left with nothing. That's what happens when you invest in Bitcoin before you're ready. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes 10x if you sell at the first crash. It doesn't matter if Bitcoin hits $1 million if you panic when it drops 50%. Without a strong foundation, you won't survive the volatility and you'll miss out on the real opportunities. The bottom line, you don't need to rush. Here's what I want you to remember. Bitcoin isn't about getting rich quick. It's about playing the long game. It's about protecting wealth, not creating it from scratch. So don't rush, don't gamble, and don't let FOMO push you into the decision you're not ready for. Focus on building your wealth first. Focus on creating a plan that works, because when you're ready, when you have the foundation in place, Bitcoin will be there. And you'll be able to invest with confidence, not fear, not desperation, and not hope. Let's talk about how you can do that. Let's talk about the exact steps you can take to build your financial fortress so you can invest in Bitcoin the right way. This is a framework called Build Wealth First, then Buy Bitcoin. All right, we've talked about why you shouldn't invest in Bitcoin until you're ready. We've talked about the risks. We've talked about the mistakes most people make. But now I want to show you something even more important, the plan. Because here's the truth. You don't build wealth by avoiding mistakes. You build wealth by following a plan that works. A plan that's simple, a plan that's repeatable, and a plan that gives you the confidence to invest. Not just in Bitcoin, but in your future. So here's the question. How do you get there? How do you go from where you are now to having a strong financial foundation? How do you build the wealth you need to invest in Bitcoin the right way? I'm going to show you. Here's the 5-step framework I use with my clients, the same framework I've used to deliver 20% plus annual returns for years. Follow this plan and you'll not only build wealth, but you'll put yourself in a position to invest in Bitcoin confidently, responsibly, and successfully. Let's dive in. Step 1, increase your income. The first step, the foundation of everything, is to increase your income. Because here's the reality. You can't save or invest your way to wealth if your income is too low. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in it. It doesn't matter how much water you pour in. If your bucket's leaking, you'll never get anywhere. So your first job is to earn more. And there are 3 ways to do this. Number 1, invest in your skills. Look at your skills you have today and ask yourself, what skills can I learn that will make me more valuable? Maybe it's public speaking, maybe it's sales, maybe it's digital marketing, coding, or negotiation. Whatever it is, focus on skills that increase your earning power. Here's a real-world example. I once worked with a young professional and he was making about $60,000 a year and saving aggressively, but he couldn't seem to get ahead. I told him to focus on one thing, learning negotiation. Within 6 months, he negotiated a promotion and raised his income to $85,000 a year. That's 40% increase without changing jobs, without starting a business, without taking on more risk. So ask yourself, what skill can you learn today that will pay off tomorrow? Start a side hustle. If you're already maxed out at your job, look for ways to create additional income, start a small business, offer a service, turn your knowledge into an online course. Rent out a property on Airbnb. The point is, find a way to turn your time, skills, or assets into extra income. Advance your career. Here's something most people overlook. Sometimes the easiest way to increase your income is to change jobs. Companies are willing to pay a premium for talent. If you're underpaid or undervalued, don't be afraid to look for better opportunities. The bottom line, increasing your income gives you more money to save, more money to invest, and more freedom to build wealth. Step 2, save aggressively. Once you increase your income, the next step is to save. And here's the key. You have to save aggressively because saving isn't just about cutting back. It's about creating a system. And here's how to do it. Automate your savings. Set up an automatic transfer so that a portion of your paycheck goes straight into savings. I recommend saving at least 20 to 30% of your income. If that feels impossible, start with 10%. The key is to make it automatic because when your saving is automatic, it becomes a habit. Cut back on unnecessary expenses. Here's the thing. Most people spend money on things they don't add value to their lives. Netflix subscriptions they never use, impulse purchases, eating out too often. I'm not saying you need to stop living your life, but every dollar you save is a dollar you can invest. And every dollar you can invest gets you closer to your goals. Build an emergency fund. Before you invest, you need a safety net. Set aside 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in high yield savings account. This is the money that keeps you safe when even life happens. Because let's be honest, life will happen. And if you don't have an emergency fund, you'll end up selling your investments at the worst possible time. Don't let that happen. Step 3, invest in proven assets. Once you're saving consistently, the next step is to start investing. And here's where most people go wrong. They jump straight into high-risk assets, trying to get rich quick. And that's not how you build wealth. Here's the truth. Wealth is built by investing in proven assets, assets that grow consistently over time, assets that generate cash flow, assets that work while you sleep. What are proven assets? Stocks like index funds, ETFs, and dividend-paying stocks, real estate, rental properties, and real estate funds that generate steady income, businesses, cash flow businesses that grow year after year. Here's an example. If you invest $1,000 a month into an index fund that grows at 10% per year, in 10 years, you'll have over $200,000. In 20 years, you'll have $700,000. That's the power of consistent investing. Step 4, diversify your income. The fourth step is to diversify your income because one income stream isn't enough. What happens if you lose your job? What happens if your business slows down? Here's the goal. Create multiple streams of income. When you do that, you'll always have cash flow coming in. No matter what happens. Step 5, educate yourself about Bitcoin. Finally, while you're building your wealth, start learning about Bitcoin. Read books like The Bitcoin Standard. Take courses. Understand the technology, the economics, and the risks. Because when you're ready to invest, you want to do it with confidence, not FOMO. The bottom line, here's the truth. Building wealth takes time. It takes discipline and it takes a plan. But when you follow this framework, step by step, you'll only build wealth, only build a strong financial foundation. You'll put yourself in a position to invest in Bitcoin the right way, from a place of strength, from a place of confidence. And when that time comes, Bitcoin will be there, waiting for you. Let's wrap this up. Bitcoin is the future, but only when you're ready. Let me leave you with this. Bitcoin is the future. It's the most important financial innovation of our time. It's not just another investment. It's a revolution in how we store value. in how we think about money and how we protect our wealth. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Bitcoin isn't going to save you. Not yet. Not unless you're ready for it. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine standing on the shore, looking out at the ocean, and in the distance, you see a ship. It's the Bitcoin ship. It's moving slowly, steadily across the horizon. And on the ship are people who understood Bitcoin early. The people who built wealth, who had a foundation, who were ready. They're sailing towards financial freedom, toward a future where wealth is protected, where their time is their own. And you're standing on the shore thinking, how do I get on that ship? What if I already missed it? Let me tell you something. That ship isn't going anywhere. It's still early. There's room for you. There's room for anyone who's willing to do the work. But before you can get on that ship, you have to build the dock. You have to lay the foundation, because if you try to jump on too soon, you'll fall into the water. You'll get wiped out by the waves and you'll miss your chance. That's why I've been saying this over and over again. Focus on building wealth first. Focus on creating your foundation. Increase your income. Save aggressively. Invest in proven assets. Diversify your income streams and educate yourself about Bitcoin. Because when you do that, when you build your financial fortress, you won't just survive Bitcoin's volatility, you'll thrive in it. You'll hold when others are panicking. You'll think long terms when others are cashing short. And you'll be ready to take full advantage of the opportunities ahead. Here's what I want you to remember. Wealth isn't built on hype. It's not built on luck, and it's not built on gambling. Wealth is built on discipline, on patience, on small, consistent steps that add over time. Think about this. If you start today, if you save just $1,000 a month and invest at 10% annual growth, in 20 years, you'll have $700,000. In 30 years, you'll have $2 million. That's the power of consistency. That's the power of following a plan. And when you combine that with opportunities that Bitcoin offers, you'll be unstoppable. Here's the thing. You don't need a lucky break to become wealthy. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need to bet everything on Bitcoin and pray it works out. What you need is a plan. What you need is to start. Every dollar you save, every investment you make, every step you take today is bringing you closer to the future you want. And the future where you are free from financial stress, free from bad debt, free to live life on your own terms. And when you're ready, when you've built your wealth and secured your foundation, Bitcoin will be there, ready to protect your wealth, ready to reward your patience, and ready to carry you into the future. Here's my promise to you. If you follow the steps that we talked about today, if you focus on building wealth before chasing hype, you'll get there. And when you create a life of freedom, and when you're ready to invest in Bitcoin, you'll do it with confidence. You'll do it from the position of strength. And you'll look back to the years from now and say, I'm glad I didn't rush. I'm glad I did it the right way. The future is bright, my friends, and the opportunities are there. And the choice is yours. Are you ready to build your future? Are you ready to take that first step? If you are, I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Let's build wealth together. Let's invest responsibly, and let's create a future you can be proud of. Let's get to work.